Assalamu alaikum everybody, and a very warm welcome back to our series that we're doing here on the Arabic in 60 Steps channel in our countdown to our reopening on the 1st of June, so make sure you've got it in the calendars for those of you who want to get one of your places. So let's get into it. So what we're doing in this series is we're just going through some of the most common questions that students on the programme have, and these are questions that concern students throughout all of Arabic, to be honest, and I've even known many graduates from my Arabic degree who even make some of these mistakes, so there's no shame in them at all. So the one we're talking about today is using hamzatul qata' in the wrong place. So what do we mean by that? Well, when you actually have a hamza written like this, but we're specifically talking about it like this today. When you have a hamza written like that, that's what we call a hamzatul qata', when you actually hear a sound. And there are a number of times in Arabic when we have words that begin with an alif, and it has a hamza, but it's hamzatul wasl, or the arriving hamza, as we might translate it as, rather than hamzatul qata', the cutting hamza, quite literally. So the cutting hamza actually has a sound, whereas hamzatul wasl is more for liaison, kind of carries through the vowel from the previous word. We did some other examples of when that's used, like at the beginning of the word, if you use el in the beginning of a word. Hence why sometimes we have like anir rajul, for example, and we have anir, we have this sound that's carried through it. Or if we were to say I saw the man, for example, ra'aytur rajula, the u sound runs through to the l. So that's a hamzatul wasl, but this is hamzatul qata'. And the mistake that students often make in the program and outside of the program is with these derived forms of verbs. So we kind of learn form 1 verbs, and what we mean by that are verbs that tend to have fatha along the top. Not all of them do, but that's kind of the most common way that we see those verbs. And then derived form verbs are verbs in this kind of pattern. Maybe there's a shadda on the middle letter, like fa'ala, or a verb like darrasa, meaning to teach, or the verb jahada in the form 3. Jahada, meaning to strive, not hahada. Jahada, apologies. Jahada, that's a form 3. Or the verb aslama, meaning to submit peacefully to Allah or to be a Muslim. The verb aslama is a form 4. So we could go through all of these forms all the way up to form 10. And it's really common in these derived forms, if the masdar begins with an alif, like for example, in form 7, so this word inqasama, it begins with an alif, inqasama, right? Or in the form 8, the verb i'taqada. So I forgot to mention, inqasama means to split up something, and i'taqada means to believe something. It's not a coincidence that the word aqidah has the same root letters as this. But i'taqada means to believe something. Like if you give your opinion about something, you say a'taqidu an kadha wa kadha. I believe that, whatever, right? So like this is a form 7. This is this is a form 8. A form 9 is usually in this kind of pattern. Ihmarra, like this. And then the form 10, a verb like actually we talked about aslama, so let's use a different route. The verb istakhdama. Let's use istakhdama for now. Istakhdama. Okay, so istakhdama means to use something. So you see in these derived forms of verbs, there's an alif at the beginning. For all of these, it's hamzatul wasl. For all of these. So it's especially common for students to make this mistake when we see it in the masdar. So when we see the word for the masdar of inqasama, inqisam, for students to put a hamzatul qata' here, right, and have inqisam like that. It's not written like that. It's not inqisam with a hamzatul qata'. It's just inqisam like that. There's no cutting hamza on that, right? But that's a very, very common mistake that students make. And likewise with the word i'taqada, the masdar, the word i'tiqad, or the belief of somebody, the i'tiqad, you do it like this. I'tiqadun, right? I'tiqad, not with a cutting hamza. The form 4, this one is an exception to that. Islam is done like that. You know, the mustard of the form for is the only one of these derived form verbs that does that. That uses a cutting hamza rather than a continuing hamza at the beginning of the mustard. So just to finish off these examples, I mean, in qasama, inqisam, i'taqada, i'tiqad. Man, I haven't seen you don't see the mustard of these form 9 verbs very often. Just from intuition, I haven't seen it used before, but probably ihmirar. Probably we'll probably split up the double ra at the end. Ihmirarun. But those form 9 verbs are so rare, you know. You do see them every now and again, but yeah, not a lot. And then for istakhdama, meaning to use something. So the word for use, its use would be its istikhdam. Istikhdamun. You know. So with all of those verb forms, I mean forms 7 through 10, it's important to remember that they do not use a cutting hamza. But then to remember on top of that the form 4 in this pattern, this aslama pattern, or if we're just quoting the pattern, the af'ala wazn of a verb, we use a cutting hamza. So that's a good thing for you guys to remember. It's important to remember that. That's a very common mistake that students make, and it's a nice coincidence that we've covered some really useful vocab in this video as well, in this nice short little video. So let's leave it there. We're going to move on to our next one very swiftly, inshallah. So please join me in the next video. And once again, don't forget to put the 1st of June in your calendars as well to make sure that you're first in line for getting your new place on the reopening of the Arabic in 60 Steps program. Assalamu alaikum.